Hello and welcome back to Citizen Speak. My name is Garrett Martin. Thank you so much for listening today. President Obama has signed an emergency order to help the people of Flint, Michigan. Flint, of course, is the city that's in crisis. If you haven't seen it in the news, what happened is Governor Snyder, he had appointed an emergency manager to Flint a few years back. And the emergency manager is basically there to help the city get out of debt. And then supposedly, after a while, the city is out of debt and the power goes back to the elected officials. Well, the emergency manager, to save money, he changed Flint from getting water from Detroit to using the Flint River. And what happened is the emergency manager didn't take the proper precautions. The proper steps were not taken in this changeover. And the Flint River is more salty than the water that they get from Detroit, because water that they get from Detroit comes from the Great Lakes. So the river water is more salty, and what that does is it corrodes the pipes, and it basically eats them on the inside. And as a result, lead became leaked into the water system. So much so that the children of Flint will now develop irreversible brain damage as they get older because of the lead that is in their system. There's no going back for these kids. Governor Snyder, he's known about Flint's water crisis and their situation since at least October, at the fuzziest date that we have now that he's known about this. October not of 2015, but October 2014, when General Motors stopped using Flint's water because they said it was making their parts rust. If you have a huge company like General Motors stop using the water in one of your cities and they report that to you, that's a major cause for concern. Because if it's rusting these parts that General Motors is using, what do you think it's doing to the pipes that water runs through? What do you think it's doing to the infrastructure that carries it along the system, that goes into the houses, the schools, the hospitals, the doctor's offices? What do you think it's doing to those pipes? It's eating them. Well, January 2015, Flint, they seek an evaluation of its efforts to improve the water amid concerns that it contains potentially harmful levels of a disinfection byproduct. So even this time last year, the city of Flint was looking for an evaluation to help improve things. So even a year ago, Governor Snyder knew what was going on. Oh, don't worry about it. They'll take care of it. It's fine. Just drink the water. Shut up. I have things to do that don't involve your poor people. Don't worry about what I'm doing. Just, you'll be fine. Well, what happened is Detroit, at this time, they offered to reconnect Flint back to its water system. But the emergency manager and the people who were appointed by Governor Snyder to take control of Flint say, nope, everything is fine in Flint, Detroit, back off, we got it. At this time, people are being poisoned at alarming rates. Well, let's say Governor Snyder, Rick Snyder, was fully incompetent and didn't hear General Motors ceasing to use the Flint water. January, he would have had to know. He would have had to know at this point. Kristen Larder, who's an epidemiologist, he noticed a spike in the blood levels of lead in the blood levels in July, August, and September of 2014. This is shortly after Flint went to the river water. So very shortly after, he noticed a spike in the lead levels that are in the blood of the people of the city. And he reported it, and guess what happened? Kristen Lager was discredited. They ran an active smear campaign against Kristen Lager, and nothing happened. Nothing came of it. But this was reported back in 2015, July, August, and 2014, of July, August, and September. In 2014, this was reported. Governor Snyder didn't even pay attention then. He didn't care. He thought, no, my emergency manager's taking care of it. He's saving us millions upon millions of dollars. So now, we're at the point where President Obama signs a emergency order because that's how big of a crisis it is. The National Guard was even called in to help pass out water filters and install them if the people needed help installing them. We now have FEMA that's going to step in and give aid for 90 days. Just 90 days. After that, hopefully, we have somebody who has their head on their shoulders and is doing the right thing. But after those 90 days, sorry, FEMA has no more money to help out Flint. And what we have is the cost of repairs to repair the infrastructure. Just the infrastructure through the city. That's not talking people's homes. In Flint, they think it's going to cost about $1.5 billion. And that's just an estimate. That's just them looking at all the piping and getting just a rough estimate on the cost of the materials and possibly how much it would cost for a team to come in and rip out the old pipes and put new pipes in. It's not talking about all the homes, all the businesses, the hospitals, just the average pipes that run through the city. Michael Moore is thankfully weighing in on this. He's from Flint. Michael Moore, if you don't know, he's made documentaries, Bowling for Columbine, Fahrenheit 9/11, the list goes on. He has an open letter. And in this open letter, the first part of it, he says, "Dear Governor Snyder, thanks to you, sir, and the premeditated actions of your administrators, you have effectively poisoned not just some, but apparently all of the children in my hometown of Flint, Michigan. And for that, you have to go to jail." And again, that's from an open letter that Michael Moore had written to Rick Snyder. And the wonderful thing is Michael Moore, he has a petition. And if you live in Michigan, I highly suggest that you find his petition. I tweeted it earlier. If you go to michaelmoore.com, you can find it as well. But his petition is to call for the resignation of Governor Snyder and hold him accountable for the actions that happened in Flint. Hopefully he will spend time behind bars. That's what Michael Moore is hoping for. And I've signed the petition, and I fully support that. I think that Governor Snyder and the whole administration had known about this. I mean, we had emails from one of Snyder's one of his administrations. And in the emails, the administrator, he admits that the people of Flint, Michigan are being blown off by us. Now, with all of this, the people of Flint are still receiving bills for the water. During this entire time, they've received bills for water that they can't pay. And these are some of the highest water bills in this state, if not the highest. For water that they can't drink, they can't bathe in, they can't clean themselves with. Rick Snyder needs to step up and at least do the decent thing and go and pay for the water bill of all of these people. I'm sure he's earned plenty of money to pay for this. I'm sure that his administration, even if they wanted to, could spread the ignorance around here and pay for that water bill. For all the people in Flint and everybody affected by this. Michigan taxpayers shouldn't have to pay this. The people responsible for this change should have to pay for this. We've had way too much going down where these poor people, they can't drink any water. They have to go and get it from Detroit, or they have to go get it from the surrounding towns around Flint. They have to get their water from there. They have to find other places to bathe that aren't in that town. Because you can't bathe in lead-soaked water. It seeps into your skin. The children I had mentioned earlier, all of the kids in Flint, all of them now will have irreversible brain damage as time goes on. That's what happens when you get lead into your body. If you're a young child or you're a pregnant woman, the lead affects the brain far greater of the young ones than it does people who are in their 20s or 30s. So as that brain is developing, the lead is basically eating away at their brain, not allowing the connections that need to be made for a well-functioning adult when they get out of high school. So where are we? We have Michael Moore today, who is hosting a town hall and hoping to lead a great charge against Governor Snyder, who's hoping to lead a great charge in the apprehension and arrest and resignation of Rick Snyder, and hoping to have the people who have done this atrocity to a city in the United States held accountable. You know, I don't know at this point. I would hope that he would be held accountable. I hear that there is an investigation going on as well. But whether that turns out where a governor is actually prosecuted is a very different story. I really don't believe that it will come to that. I hope it does. You know, I really hope it does. I know that him going to jail won't actually fix anything. I know that the people who are affected by this won't have the damage done to them reversed if he faces charges. But this needs to be a wake-up call. It needs to be a wake-up call that if something is wrong in your city, if things are going awry, report it as soon as possible. And that's exactly what the people of Flint have done. And it's going on 2 years that reports have been out that something's wrong with the water. If you go and you look up the images of people at these town halls, they all have bottles of water or gallon jugs of water, and it's just yellow. It looks like somebody peed in a bottle and they brought it with them. But it's not urine. It's the water that they get directly out of their taps in these pictures. And if you think that the government is always on your side, that corporations are always on your side, look to Flint as your example. Look to Flint to see that, oh, well, maybe a corporation or a government agency or my appointed officials are not on my side this time. That's what people need to be thinking. They did this to try to save money, but now it's going to cost way more money than they would have ever saved by switching to the Flint water. And they could have used the Flint water. They really could have, if the proper precautions would have been taken. There was no impact study done. There was no treatment facility set up to treat the water before it goes into the pipes. It was just basically, nope, I'm going to have my friend's company come and do this. They're going to make a lot of money off of this process. And that's the bottom line. That's what we're doing. But now we have an entire city of children who won't grow up to be like you and I, who won't get to be well-functioning members of society. And what's to happen to them? I mean, should we follow the Republican siren call and say, oh, well, no, they're fine, they need to pick themselves up by their bootstraps and carry on and make this right for them? We have an entire city, and it's not a small city. Flint is not a tiny city. Flint has just under 100,000 people in it. And that might be small for, big places like New York or Los Angeles, but here in Michigan, it's not a tiny place. So we now have 100,000 people, roughly, affected by this decision to try to save money without any precautions taken. 100,000 people will be affected for the rest of their life. What are we supposed to do with that? How are we supposed to take care of all of those people? You know, we have people who say that, oh, no, we shouldn't be taking in Syrian refugees because we have homeless veterans and we have starving people in our own country. Yet we see from Flint that we have so many people that are now in more assistance. If you didn't think that we could have taken care of Syrian refugees to come into this country before, and you think that we don't have a handle on the homeless veterans in this country, or we have too many starving people, what do you think of this? I want to know. You let me know in the comments. Find me on Twitter. That's the best place to respond to me at. On Twitter, at CITZSpeak. I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to hear what you think we should do for these people. Should they be taken care of by the state or by the federal government for the rest of their life? I think they should. I don't think that any single person who was wronged in such a fashion, who has had their kid's life cut short, had the irreversible damage done to them that has happened here in Michigan, I don't think that they should have to worry for anything for the rest of their life. You know, I hope that there are people who will be just fine coming out of this. I hope that there's people who had been going through this entire process who weren't able to move out because either they didn't have any money or because of other circumstances. If they were stuck there, I hope that they are fine. But the likelihood of somebody who lives in Flint to be fine for the rest of their life without any health problems is slim to none. The most sickening part of all of this is Governor Snyder has known for so long that things were bad, that things were going downhill, and that we were going to reach this point. He's known for so long. There are independent agencies who are doing investigation of the actual timeline. But from what we know so far, and from what I had told you, he's known since at least 2014 that something is seriously wrong in Flint. He's known for a year and a half that things are horrible there with just the water. And he's done nothing. And he continues on with his day, and he doesn't act like anything is wrong. And when anybody ever spoke up, he would dismiss them, and he would say, nope, they're a liar, nothing's wrong, my administration hasn't found anything wrong. This is what's so sickening, is you have an elected official, someone who's running the state, not care at all about the people. I bet you if Flint was ran and occupied by mostly wealthy individuals, he would care. He would want more done. But the other bad thing, the other horrible part about this is he's just recently asked for federal help. On Thursday, he asked for federal help. We've had town hall meetings in Flint week after week, month after month, where people would bring their lead-filled water bottles, and he's just now calling for federal help. And the only reason why he's calling for federal help is because this is now a national story. This is now a worldwide story. You have the United Nations even thinking about doing stronger investigation into Flint. The only reason why he's asking for help now is because he can't make any more excuses. Because his phone is ringing off the hook from around the United States alone, and he has nowhere else to turn. He has no other rock to hide under. That's the saddest part about all of this, is that it takes the elimination of every possible excuse for Rick Snyder to come out and be an adult and admit that things are bad. He hasn't admitted that he did anything wrong yet, and you will never hear him admit that. You will never hear him say, oh, I did something wrong. He comes out and he gives a little crocodile tear apology, and he says, oh, well, I'm sorry for what the people of Flint are going through. If you're so sorry, why don't you go and you drink that water that they had to drink? Plenty of people in Flint still have bottles of water that are filled with lead for you to drink. You won't go do that. You won't go do that, Rick Snyder. I guarantee you, if somebody from his office contacted me and said, no, Governor Snyder, he heard that you said that you wouldn't drink any of that he wouldn't drink any of that water. So if you can get him a bottle of water, he'll drink it. I guarantee you he would never drink that water. And I'd do it. I would go and I would get him a bottle of that Flint water, and I would watch him drink it. And I would watch him swallow that. It's absolutely devastating. That to think that because of careless voting, because of wanting for profits, we have somebody who steps into office and who makes a city of about 100,000 people a disaster zone. A zone where children will grow up with irreversible brain damage. If that doesn't make your blood boil, if hearing that American children in your own country are poisoned by elected officials, if that doesn't make your blood boil, you need to reevaluate yourself. You know, I understand that I'm a little closer to this picture. I live in Michigan. I've been to Flint several times. You know, I've seen the people there. I have family members and friends who go to Flint. I get it that I'm close to the picture, so I care just maybe a little bit more about this than a lot of people. But I think every single person should be upset about this. This isn't a little city, a little village in some third world country. This is here in America that this has happened. This is in a state that has the most fresh water in the world, and yet the people are poisoned by elected official. And the government does nothing until it's too late. After things have been reported, they didn't care at all. If that doesn't make your blood boil, you need to look into this story more. You need to wake up and pay attention. They don't care about us. They don't care anything about us. I don't have $1 million. I'm not going out and donating hundreds of thousands of dollars to a campaign. They don't care about me. They don't care about you. They say that they do when it's time for your vote. But after that, hit the road, Jack. They don't want you here. Don't you come back no more. It's an absolute disgrace about what's going on. And I applaud Michael Moore for leading this charge. You know, I know that conservatives, they hate him and they think he's a crock, but I think that everybody should be supporting Michael Moore on this effort. Because with the media attention that he garners, with the pull that he has, something may actually get done. And that's the one thankful thing I have coming out of this whole situation, is that Michael Moore might actually bring some help. He might actually get some relief. He might actually have Governor Snyder thrown in jail. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Wherever you find this. I'm on Stitcher now. I'm on Spreaker. That's why I host at. This is also uploaded to YouTube. SoundCloud, I think I still have it going up there. I don't feel like paying any money, so so that's filled up. But wherever you find this, leave me a comment. The best place to leave me a comment, I'll tell you, is on Twitter. You can find me there at CITZSpeak. Because I want to hear from you guys on this. I want to know what your thoughts are. All right, thanks you so much for listening. My name is Garrett Martin. I'm your host on Citizen Speak. Thank you so much.